Just when you thought you had figured out the biggest game flop of 2024 with Concord, this game Unknown 9 Awakening says, hey, hold my beer. On the heels of the Concord disaster, you now have this game, Unknown 9 Awakening. It released just a few days ago. It's been available on Steam for a bit as a free-to-play game. It was kind of a throw-in if you bought certain game video hardware, but now it is being offered as a standalone game that you could purchase, obviously both digitally and physically. One of the most interesting pieces of news tidbits in terms of talking about the lack of success for Unknown 9 Awakening comes from fellow video game YouTuber Smash JT, who made a really compelling and interesting video just yesterday talking about some insight that he was offered by someone identifying themselves as a GameStop employee.
If it is true, it's nothing short of catastrophic. So the email went off like this. From Anonymous. I work at GameStop at the corporate level. I have data on 2,900 stores. Your video inspired me to check Unknown 9 sales. While there was movement for 2,000 initial copies, which were store distributions, I saw maybe 50 other copies with movement, which were pre-orders, but nothing else. We had around 350 copies of Unknown 9 for PlayStation 5 available for shipping, but the demand was zero, meaning none sold. On Xbox, we had about 150 copies, and again, zero demand. So between both platforms, at the time of my first email, we sold 0 copies.
Here, Smash JT is providing the information that he got from his source at GameStop, talking about having data on 2,900 stores. That checks out. All you've got to do is Google the number of GameStop stores in the U.S., which I believe is roughly 2,915. So that is good information. And then Unknown 9's sales. While there was movement for 2,000 initial copies, and that's going to be something I want to talk about in a little bit more detail, because movement is a little bit of a nebulous term. It may or may not refer to actual sales of a physical copy. It could also refer to the movement within GameStop's inventory system in terms of reported quantities. That's going to be really important. Again, we'll get to that in just a moment. Also saw approximately 50 copies with movement for pre-orders, but nothing else. And then goes on to... if we go through this video a little bit further, talks about some additional information about 350 copies, physical copies of the Unknown 9 for PS5 available for shipping, and I'm going to presume that that means 350 copies sitting in the main GameStop warehouse. So if you just want to buy a copy direct from GameStop.com shipped to you, it would be coming from that pool of inventory, and none were sold. So here's the thing: we can't independently verify the 350 copies in GameStop's warehouse unless we have someone inside GameStop's warehouse. That won't be easy. But the way I look at this, if we can make the other numbers reported make sense and it's logical, then I think it follows suit that you can certainly have a high degree of confidence that the 0 out of 350 available is also true. And because I thought that this was a really just amazing reported piece of information, I was curious enough to kind of look into this a little further myself. And so I did some investigation, and I want to show you what my findings are. And it is largely based around doing some creative searching on GameStop's website. So before we look at what these numbers are and what they mean, a little word about how I understand GameStop's inventory system to work. So this is something important you have to understand. If you go to GameStop and you order a game, so you say, I want to purchase Unknown 9 Awakening, and I want to purchase it so that I pick it up from my local store. I can't wait a couple days for you to ship it to me. I want to get in my car and hold it. I'm in a meeting or I'm having lunch, but I'm going to come down to your store later today and pick it up. The website has to obviously be able to tell you if it's available in your local store. Now, in order to head off the scenario where you go to purchase this game from your local GameStop online with the directive to pick it up in store, once that happens, the employees at that GameStop store receive a notice to, hey, please pull a copy of this and set it aside for this customer who paid for it. Now, GameStop employees are obviously typically stretched pretty thin. It's not like the store has tons of employees, so it's likely that they're not going to instantly have an opportunity to pull that copy aside. They're probably ringing a customer out, working on a trade, so on and so forth. But they do receive a message on their terminal, and so the next time they have a free moment, they would go and put the copy aside. But because they're busy, scenarios can happen and have happened in the past with GameStop, which has caused a lot of people, issues where they go and they buy the copy online to pick up at the store. But by the time they get to the store, unfortunately, that copy was sold to someone else because the employee sold it before they got the message. So historically, what GameStop has done to remediate this problem is that if the store reports that there is one copy available when you look up on GameStop.com for, find it in your local stores, what that means is they have exactly two copies. So they have one copy that they can sell you and have a message to the employee to hold aside, but there is also going to be a second copy, which may or may not be the broken open shelf copy. Now, what that means is, so let's say a store receives two copies of a game. In a moment, I'm going to kind of explain my theory is that in the case of Unknown 9, they printed or they assigned two physical copies to each store. And so what happens is, for any game, if you get two copies in, the process is supposed to be that at some point after you've received it, when you get an opportunity to update your store shelves and so on and so forth, you take one of those two copies and you break it open. So you take the seal, take the packaging off, you take the disc out of the game, and you put it in the drawer. And then you put the empty case up on the shelves. That's the display copy. And of course, they do that. It's an anti-theft measure. So someone can't just take the, sealed game off the shelf and walk out. The worst thing they could steal would be just the case, which is typically not going to be desirable to a thief. So there's this one internal store copy that's a display copy, and then there would be however many additional copies they received that are factory sealed. And so if you order the copy online, you're holding aside a sealed copy. And if for some reason, again, to mitigate, the employee didn't get the message, there's this backup copy that they could provide you if they sold the other copy before they heard about it. So anyhow, I believe that what happened here, based on the searching I did, is that each store got two copies, and in maybe a handful of cases, more than two, to accommodate 50 or so pre-orders that were created in different stores, and it would be available to service them. So why do I say that? Well, GameStop lets you check store availability for any game that you're interested in. So I thought it would be an interesting exercise to go ahead and take a smattering of different zip codes from around the country, put them in, and do the largest radius of search, which is 100 miles. So in this particular case, we looked in Atlanta, and here's what I saw. For the 10 stores within 100 miles, we have stores with one copy, one copy, one copy, one copy, one copy, one copy, one copy. You get the idea here. They all have one copy, which means to me that they sold zero. Because again, one copy online means they have two copies in the store. And so the theory is, if I were to purchase one of these copies and then refresh the search, that store would no longer be listed because it's down to the one copy, which will count as zero online because you don't want that copy to be sold and then sold to someone else. So, well, that's Atlanta. So again, we want to see, okay, maybe it's just a coincidence that nobody bought a copy in Atlanta. So let's go. I've got a couple random zip codes I'll put in that I just looked up, random zip codes from large cities. So Phoenix, Arizona, a zip code that would be appropriate there would be 85008. So let's look at 85008, 100-mile radius. Let's do a search here. We have 3 stores in the Arizona area. 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy. Let's go to a different geographic area. Miami Beach, Florida. 33109 would be a zip code appropriate for that. 33109, 100-mile search. 11 stores. 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy. Look at that. Every single store in the Miami area has exactly 1 copy, which means if they all got 2, no one bought a copy of this game in that region. How about Boston? Any viewers out in the Boston area? 02199. Let's see what that looks like. 100-mile radius. 9 stores. 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy. There you go. And how about New York? I believe the zip is somewhere in upstate New York. 11962. Let's see what we get with 100 miles. 45 stores. Okay, 45 stores. Let's see what we got. 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy, 1 copy. Let's see if there's any outliers here in this 45 store region. Scrolling, 1 copy. Let's see here. Still looking. I might have missed something, but I did not notice. 45 stores, 1 copy available. So let me go back to, again, let's look at the numbers again here. Key numbers from, we'll call it the Smash JT information. You know, 2,900 game stores in the U.S., that is absolutely verifiable information. It's correct. 2,000 copies with movement. So here's my theory on that. Now, when I looked at these zip codes in 100 miles, I suspect I didn't get every GameStop in 100 miles. Some just didn't show up on the list. Those would probably be representative of either stores that maybe sold a copy or maybe have gone through this process where when you take a copy of the game and you correctly go through the process of breaking it open, putting the disc aside, and putting the store copy on the shelf, it would show up in the system is -1. So starts with 2 and then it goes down to 1. So that would explain why all these stores don't have 2, they have 1. So I suspect that these 2,000 copies with movement aren't necessarily sales, but they're, of the 2,900 stores, 2,000 of them correctly did their inventory correctly, or correctly set that up, so that the numbers are correct. I suspect that, again, there's definitely a lot less than 2,000 copies that's sold in the U.S. in GameStop, based on what I'm seeing. You can't convince me in any universe that they sold more than 2,000 copies of this game. I think that the information here in the Smash JT disclosures is accurate when we understand what copies with movement means. Again, I don't think copies with movement means that it was actually a final transaction. I think it's probably a mix of a few, but largely inventory moves. Based on how this works. Now, having said that, some people bought this game at GameStop. Some people bought this game at GameStop. And you know how I know that? Well, this is the second part of the video where we give a little bit of here's my own disclosure. And before you go flaming me off the internet, I'm going to have a rationale. Just work with me. I wanted to get even more insight on this situation. So I visited a couple of local GameStops in the Jacksonville area. and who reportedly had the one copy available. And remember, I said earlier, my theory was that if you were to actually purchase a copy, it would go down to 0, not show up. I wanted to put that to the test, and the only way I was going to do that was going to be to actually place an order for this game to pick up in the store. I picked 2 stores in the Jacksonville, Florida area, and yes, that's right, I placed the orders. And sure enough, just as soon as I finished placing them, when I went to revisit the search, those stores were no longer listed. So that kind of gives further weight to the fact that if that one copy is gone, that means 1 of 2 at most that were in the store are gone. Did I go pick them up, you wonder? Well, yes, I did. Okay, so I've got my copy of Unknown 9 Awakening here at my local GameStop now. The person behind the counter said that they believe there were 2 copies made available. I have one of them, not clear if the other one is still in stock or not. GameStop site says it's not. But nonetheless, I got my copy, and we're going to see if we can get one from another store. So we've just come out of our second GameStop. We've confirmed that there was some confusion before, that they did get 1 copy of Unknown 9 Awakening. Well, it's mine now, Mr. Speculator. And by the way, while we were here, we noticed they had an amazing selection of retro, including cartridge games. And apparently I had some credit and stuff, so I was able to score this very clean Cruisin' Exotica for N64 for about $25. That is actually a pretty good deal. So I gotta be honest with you, thank you GameStop for feeding my speculative crap game investing and hooking me up with a cool N64 game. That's right. That's right. No, I fess up. Here we go. Look at that. I have 2 copies of PS5 Unknown Awakening as part of the investigation of this story. So, everyone that's doing their updates on the suspected actual physical in-store copies, you could probably double your predictions because I bought 2. I'm sorry. Now, look. Let's be clear about this, okay? The sense that I think a lot of folks have that this game failed because it was pushing agendas and ideologies and things that people just weren't looking for and didn't want to be preached to or what have you, that's all well and good. I'm not going to take sides on that, although I see the merit in that argument. And I'm not buying the game because I want to play it. I'm not buying the game to try to advance or show support for, inclusivity consultants or worldviews or whatever. No, I'm going to be honest with you. It's an investment. It's an investment. Here's the thing, and I know I'm going to get some pushback on this, but I'm willing to die on this hill. 10, 15 years from now, people are going to want to set collect PS5, and that means buying the whole set of PS5, just like today. Look at YouTube. Look at the game collecting channels on YouTube. People religiously try to go and pick a full N64 set, a full NES set. Heck, I'm trying to put together a full NES set, a full Atari set, consoles from years and decades gone by. And I promise you, video games aren't going anywhere. They're going to be here for another 100, 200 years. 10 to 15 years from now, the hot thing to try and collect will be the PS5 set, particularly if it's one of the last console generations that even has physical media. Think about that for a second. And that's the thing about doing a set. You're going to buy the games that you would never play in a million years. I have a copy right here of Sesame Street ABC 123 for NES. I know some of you say, Doug, you probably need that because that's about how many people watch your channel. I get it. That's fine. I'll take it. But here's the thing. I have that game. I'm never going to play it, but it's part of the set. So at some point in the future, there's some set collector that's going to struggle really hard with the great video game crash of 2024 as part of the PS5 life cycle, because I suspect it's not going to be easy to find a copy of Awakening. It's not going to be easy to find Concord. And so I'll freely admit, I bought a couple of these. I'm going to set them aside. And you know what? Someday, 10, 15 years down the line, I suspect I'm probably going to do pretty well when I let go of them. So You're welcome to unload on me. That's okay. I don't think it's scalping, because here's the thing. Can you really scalp something that no one wants? It's one thing if I went to the store and I bought up all the copies of the new Zelda Echoes of Wisdom game, or the Echoes of whatever, the new Mario Party, what have you, and inflated them up to some crazy amount. But I'm not going to ruin anyone's Christmas by buying up the 2 copies of stupid Unknown Awakening game. I'm not going to go list them on eBay now. I'm long on these, just like the crypto kids are. So that's my defense. I give it to you. Folks, again, like I said, I think the point of this video is to say I believe we have scientific evidence here that I've presented to you to make the case that the Smash JT information is in fact most likely spot on, and that it was as big of a disaster as is reported and theorized. If a AA game with many millions of dollars of budget in it only printed, let's say, 6,000 and change physical copies for GameStop, which is really, when you think about it, one of the 4 places that are major chains that sell physical anymore, being GameStop, Target, Best Buy, and Walmart. If you make the guesstimate that maybe they're kind of going to receive any physical in roughly equal proportions, again, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air. That would suggest that perhaps Bandai Namco only had the courage to print about 25,000 units of this game in terms of the physical releases altogether for the U.S. And again, for a AA game that's going to have a multi-million-dollar budget, that's terrible. That's horrible. There's no way they haven't lost their what's on this game. And not a good thing. Another data point that in fact we have the video game crash of 2024. Again, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the reasons why. Folks like Smash JT, the Side Scores podcast, these guys do a job that I couldn't possibly hope to do in terms of going in depth and really, really down in the weeds on the issues behind that. They're the folks to go to for that analysis. But I wanted to bring to the table my own intellectual curiosity, my long time knowledge of doing GameStop arbitrage, and kind of having a feel for how these things work. And I think I've brought that to the fore to, again, validate this data. So there you go. Folks, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this piece. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about this whole topic. Please like and subscribe. As always, I'll see you next time. It's all Doug in Games.